just want to apologize for not recently uploaded any new content of Panzerstorm, nor any new content of World of Tanks, or any of my history videos that I've mentioned in the past. So, now that we've gotten that underway, let's talk about history, about World War II and World War I. But most of all, let's talk about the history about anti-tank material rifles, or anti-tank rifles. During World War I, when England invented the tank, the English invented the tank, the Mark 1s, Mark 2s and 3s, and also the French also with their FT-17 lights and St. Germains. Germany during World War I needed a rifle or a weapon to stop those vehicles. And back then, the armor, they didn't make any, like, they were heavy, though the armor wasn't really that thick, really. It was only thick enough to stop regular machine gun and rifle bullets, until Germans started making armor-piercing bullets. But they made a very large caliber rifle that was made by Mauser. And it's similar to our 50 BMG rifles that we have, or 50 caliber rifles of today that we have. During, around the 1930s, German military and everyone else also in weapon development industry, period, we were all fascinated with very large guns. Doesn't matter if it was an artillery piece, machine gun, or a rifle, we all were fascinated with something that went with a bang. So, for instance, England invented, with the help of Canadians and Australians, the Boys anti-tank rifle, a bolt-action anti-tank rifle that was chambered, I believe, in 50 BMG or 50 caliber. Very well-known anti-tank rifle during the beginning and during World War II. The Germans also had anti-tank rifles, and a lot of people actually had it. Finland had one that was a 20 millimeter. Switzerland had one that was a 20 millimeter. Sweden had one that was a 20 millimeter. So did the Russians. The Russians had the PTRDs and PTRSs, 41s, and they were chambered in 14.5 millimeter or 57-inch caliber. The PTRDs were single shot, though they were bolt action. And the scaled-up version of the PTRSs, were 41s, were actually clip-fed, and were very complex and very advanced because they were semi-automatic rifles. And they were used primarily not just as anti-tank rifles, but anti-material for also sniping purposes through buildings. The Germans did the same thing, mostly anti-tanks, but in rare occasions German troops did use also, with like the Soviets, use their anti-tank rifles for anti-material, anti-sniping purposes too, in rare occasions. One well-known use anti-tank rifle for the Germans was the Panzerstorm 39. That's right, Bush. Panzerstorm is spelled Panzerbuchse, and it's Panzerstorm 39 because it was made in 1939 in Germany. It was chambered in 7.92 millimeter by 94 millimeter. Very large bullet, not bullet, but casing behind a small little tiny bullet. That's basically an 8 millimeter bullet. Another iconic World War II anti-tank rifle was the MSS-41, a bullpup bolt-action rifle made by Skroda's arms factory in Czechoslovakia. During Germany's built-up, Czechoslovakian military called up for anti-tank rifles because they didn't like what the Germans were doing, making tanks, and they believed that they would go at war with Germany. So what they did is that they built a rifle that was a bullpup, very futuristic, very advanced anti-tank rifle, anti-material rifle. It was a single shot. It was a bolt action. The bolt itself was actually the trigger guard and hand guard foregrip that actually opened up the bolt by pushing forward, lifting up the bolt, on the right side, and then it would like empty out the casing. And it was chambered for 8mm Mauser cartridge with a very high velocity. So instead of a mass like 50 BMG bullet, or a 20mm bullet, or a 14mm bullet, you have a smaller bullet that was going supersonic speeds. And then there's also Winchester. Winchester also invented many, and we also had our own type, but Winchester and other companies also had prototypes. And one was chambered in 50 BMG, and it was also made out of stamped steel construction, and it was a very prototype, and I believe there's a few of them in museums, and some have sold in private auctions. And it was made similar. It had the same type of firing, because it was semi-automatic. It had the M1 Gran, or Gurin, and M1A1 carbine feed mechanism and bolt mechanism in it. Quite very interesting prototype. I would love to see what the devs would do to bring those rifles to life. But anyway, this is Artemis HD. I'll see you all later on the battlefield. Bye, guys.